Hello everyone and welcome to Life Begins at 20. My name is Mark and today I have the brand new Commander 2016 deck, Breed Lethality, to open for you. This is one of the 5 new Commander decks with each having a 4-colour Commander. This deck has the Commander Atraxa, Praetors Voice, with the colours green, white, blue and black. The partner mechanic is also something new to Commander 2016, where you can have 2 commanders if they both have partner. The combination of their colour identity determines which colours you can have in your deck. If you decide to do this, the 2 cards start in the command zone, and the commander tax, if they get removed, only applies to each individual card rather than together. This would then cause the remaining deck to be 98 cards. Each commander box contains the following: a 100 card commander deck, which includes 4 foil commanders, foil oversized card of your commander, 10 double-sided tokens, a deck storage box, a deck strategy insert which talks about what cards are in the deck and strategies for it, and a magic quick reference guide. So let's open up the deck and see what we've got inside. I'll leave a link in the description below for the deck list and a link so you can actually see all the cards on the Wizards website. So first up we've got Atraxa, Praetors Voice. So for a green, white, blue and a black you get a 4/4 flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink creature, and at the beginning of your end step you get to proliferate. This is probably one of the most, if not the strongest Commander 2016 commander we've got. Really like this card. I mean, for 4 mana to get in a 4/4 with all of those is great. The proliferate is just fantastic and it makes a huge difference in this deck, especially with the amount of +1/+1 counters, which is the theme for this. Really strong commander, absolutely love it. Next up we've got Ikra Shadiki the Usurper. So for 3, a black and a green, you get a 3/7 with Menace. Pretty good. When a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Doesn't quite fit with the +1/+1 counter strategy, but if you can get this on the board with a lot of creatures that are actually going to get huge, get them through with some damage, you're going to gain a hell of a lot of life. So it does work with this deck, even though it doesn't actually utilise or aid the +1/+1 counter strategy. Next up we've got Ishai, Ojutai Dragonspeaker. I think that's right anyway. So for 2, a white and a blue, you get a 1/1 with flying, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This would be fantastic. Yes, it starts off small and your opponents will have to deal with this straight away, because after a turn, especially in a big multiplayer game, say it's 5 of you, this is going to get big very quickly. Do like this commander. And next up we've got Reyhan, Last of the Abzan. This is one of the cards I really liked, and I was thinking of putting it into my cube as well. So for 1, a black and a green, you get him entering the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. So 3/3 is fine. But the positive side of this is it gives every single one of your creatures modular. Fantastic. With the deck the way it is, there's loads and loads of counters being in play. If when a creature gets removed, you're going to end up moving those around a lot, and it stops your opponent really being able to singly target him to get rid of him, because he's always going to give lots of benefit with the 3 counters being transferred to another creature you control. So realistically, your opponent has to wipe out your entire board and kill this guy last for it to be able to get removed well. Really do like that card. Then we've got our lovely double-sided tokens. The germ's pretty cool. Okay, first up we've got Festercreep. So for 1 and a black, you get to enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. You can pay 1 and a black to remove a +1/+1 counter from it, and all other creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Great piece of removal early on if need be. Else, if you can get him bigger and bigger, yeah, he's going to be able to kill things very quickly. Do like that. Thrummingbird is next. So for 1 and a blue, you get a 1/1 flyer, and whenever it deals damage to player, proliferate. Great. More counters. This is all about this deck. Abzan Falconer, one of the Outlast creatures in this deck, and to be perfectly honest, really do like this. Outlast is fine, so for 2 and a white you get a 2/3, and each creature you control, the +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Great, enables evasion on loads of creatures you're going to have, if not all of them. Orzhov Advokist. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature he or she controls. If a player does, creatures that player control doesn't attack you or a planeswalker control until your next turn. Enables you, stops an opponent from attacking. Very useful. Tuskguard Captain, another one of the Outlast creatures there. This one I feel is probably going to be the best one of the lot. So for 2 and a green, it's a 2/3 with Outlast, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has Trample. Towards the end of the game, this is going to be massive for you. Trample on all your huge creatures, you're always going to hit your opponent for damage. Next, we've got Elite Scale Guard, so 4 and a white for a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, bolster 2. More +1/+1 counters. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. This is also very strong. If you have a wide enough board, you can tap down their entire defense and swing in for the kill. Nice. Juniper Order Ranger here, so for 3 a green and a white, you get a 2/4. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature and a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Great. More +1/+1 counters, the better. Really nice. Enduring Scale Lord, so for 4 a green and a white, you get a 4/4 flyer. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are placed on another creature you control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on him. Again, really, really nice. Proliferate means they're going to get counters, which means he's going to get counters. He's just going to get big very quickly. Soul Ring with a Commander staple there. Fellwell Stone again. Golgari Signet. Orzhov Signet. Simic Signet. Great. Like having the Signets just for some mana ramp. Commander Sphere some more mana and sacrifice it for card. Dark Steel Ingot here. So for 3, it's an indestructible artifact to add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Really solid. The mana base seems to be quite nice in this. So next up we've got Brave the Sands. So for 1 and a white, creatures you control have Vigilance. Really nice. Means you can swing in for a load of damage and still have blockers at the end. Each creature card you control can block an additional creature in combat. Fantastic. It just means that your huge creatures may be able to take out a couple of your opponents if they have a wider board than you. Great. One of my favourite cards in this deck actually for +1/+1 counters in there. So for 1 a green and a blue, whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. More than likely, if you can manage to get the Outlast creature that gives you trample on or flying, you're going to be dealing damage to players quite regularly. And all your creatures more than likely will have +1/+1 counters on it later on in the game. Card draw, always good. Disdainful Stroke, so for 1 and a blue, counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater. Useful counter spell there. Solidarity of Heroes, so for 1 and a green, you have Strive, so when it costs 1 and a green more to cast for each creature beyond the first. Choose any number of target creatures, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each of them. Useful early on, late game, if you've got enough mana, it's just going to be fantastic. It's going to make things very, very big. Grip of Phoresis, so for 2 and a blue, gain control of target equipment, then create a 0/0 green germ creature token and attach that equipment to it. Stealing a piece of equipment which you can have on there, or you can equip it to something one of your bigger creatures. Great. Inspiring Call, so for 2 and a green, draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until the end of turn. So not only are you getting loads of card draw from this, all of your creatures being indestructible when they're swinging in. Fantastic. Mortify, so for 1 a white and a black, you get to destroy target creature or enchantment. Nice. Putrefy, 1 black and a green, destroy target artifact or creature, and it can't be regenerated. Really strong. Not being regenerated is very, very useful as well. One of the newer cards, so draw a card equal to the number of cards in your hand, discard a card for each drawn that way. Very useful if you're trying to find something specific, and land cycling if you're struggling for mana. Another one of the new ones, so exile up to 2 artifacts or enchantments. Great. There's going to be plenty of those in Commander that you might want to get rid of, else basic land cycling if you're struggling. Tezzeret's Gambit, this is a really good card in this deck. So for 3 and a token which could either be paid in blue mana or 2 life, doesn't make too much of a difference. Draw 2 cards, great. Proliferate as well, even better. Fantastic, really strong card in this. Crystalline Crawler, this is one of the cards I'm tempted to get for my cube. If not, take it from this deck. So for 4, you get a 1/1 with Converge. So it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each colour mana spent to cast it. 4-colour deck, I'm pretty sure you should be able to get at least 3 different colours in this, make it a 4/4 for 4, if not a 5/5. You get to remove a +1/+1 counter from it to add any colour to your mana pool. You could get rid of all of them if you wanted to get a huge burst of mana, or you can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on it, so you can every other turn get some mana. Proliferate, you're going to get more counters. You've got ways of getting double counters as well to make it even bigger. So you've either got a creature that can smack in, you've got something that can get big towards the end of the game, or just a huge mana burst for you. Great card. Deep Glow Skate, this is another one of the cards which I'm going to be putting into my cube. So for 4 and a blue, you get a 3/3 fish. If it was flying as well, it'd be absolutely incredible, but to be perfectly honest, as it is great. When it enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents. That is massive. Not only could it be the creatures you're going to have in this deck, it could be planeswalkers if you decide to make any alterations to the deck, any of the artifacts as well, and there is a land in here which also uses those counters, so fantastic. Absolutely incredible card for this deck. Duelist Heritage, so for 2 and a white, whenever one or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until the end of turn. Huge creature, you're going to be able to either get rid of something of theirs that's big that's trying to block, or you're just going to get in for even more damage. Fantastic. Manifold Insight, so for 2 and a blue, reveal the top 10 cards of your library, starting with the next opponent in turn order. Each opponent chooses a different non-land card from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest at the bottom of your library in random order. If you've got plenty of land, you're going to get yourself some really nice cards here. Worst case scenario, you're still going to get, in a multiplayer game, if you're playing all 5 decks at once, 4 cards for 3 mana. Can't complain. Sublime Exhalation, so for 6 and a white, we've got one of the new Undaunted cards. If you're playing a huge game, the cost is going to be so much less, so you could potentially even have this for 2 and a white to destroy all creatures. If you're struggling behind everybody else, or you're not able to get enough creatures out quite quickly, or you have a plan after you cast this, great card to have. Master Biomancer is a really strong card in here, so for 2 a green and a blue, each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it, equal to its power, and is mutant in addition to all its other types. Every creature entering the battlefield with a minimum of 2 1/1 counters on it. Fantastic. You can get him bigger. You could potentially have massive creatures coming in even bigger towards the late game. Really like that. Colonian Hydra. Again, more +1/+1 counters. So for 3 and 2 forest, you get a Trampler that enters the battlefield with 4 1/1 counters on it. Whenever it attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Absolutely incredible for this deck. You're going to make armies so big, so quickly. Fantastic card. Gave Guru of the Spores. So for 2 a black, a green and a white, it's a 5/5. You get to pay 1 to remove a +1/+1 counter on it and create a 1/1 green Saproling, or you can pay 1 to sacrifice a creature and put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. You can just use this later on in the game to create Saprolings and get rid of them to put counters on other people. It's a nice way of trading counters around. Good card. Scavenging Ooze, another really nice card in this deck. So for 1 and a green, you can pay a green mana to exile a target card from a graveyard, anybody's. If it was a creature card, put a +1/+1 counter on it and gain 1 life. Loads of little creatures are going to be around in a big multiplayer game. This could get very big very quickly, and it also then stops your opponent from being able to cast creatures from their graveyard. Great. Next up, we've got Necroplasm. So for 1 and 2 black, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, destroy each creature with converted mana cost equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. And it's got Dredge too. So if you would draw a card, instead you may return this card from your graveyard to your hand and put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Means you're always going to be able to get it back. Later on in the game, you're going to be able to get rid of creatures very, very quickly. Really do like this card. Champion of the Lambholt. So for 1 and 2 green, creatures with power less than Champion of the Lambholt's power can't block creatures you control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Your opponents are going to have to deal with this very, very quickly, because with the amount of +1/+1 counters that can get around in this deck, this thing is going to grow really, really big, and no opponent's going to be able to block you. Really, really, really good card. Vorel of the Wholeclade, another fantastic card, again for making more counters and more counters. So for 1 a green and a blue, you get a 1/4. For a green and blue, you can tap it to double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. This is great. You get mana ramp out of it.
Artifact can also get some more mana ramp if it's a certain type of artifact, or you can just make a creature huge. Really nice. Custodi Soulbinders is next, so for 3 and a white, enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters with X is the number of other creatures on the battlefield. Later on in the game this could come in huge, if not mid-game it's still going to be pretty decent. For 2 and a white, remove a +1/+1 counter from it and create a 1/1 spirit with flying. Great! You could get rid of a load of counters later on and make your army really, really wide. Flying creatures, get loads of counters, make them huge. Everyone's happy, apart from your opponents. Forgotten Ancient, another creature that really uses ice as those tokens. So for a 3 and a green, whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of those counters from it to other creatures. Fantastic. Your opponents in a big multiplayer game are going to be casting lots of spells. He's going to get very big very quickly, and he's going to help the rest of your army get +1/+1 counters. Bane of the Living, so for 2 and 2 black, you get to morph cost it as well. So for X and 2 black, cast it face down for 3 and then face up at any time. When it's turned face up, all creatures get -X/-X until the end of turn, whatever that morph cost was. Really useful piece of removal to get rid of a lot of smaller creatures that might chump block your creatures, so you can get in for lots of damage. Nice card there. Corpse Jack Menace, another one of those combo cards with this deck. So for 2, a black and a green, you get a 4/4. It's pretty decent by itself. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be placed on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are placed on it instead. Imagine having this out when Deep Glowskate comes onto the board. Massive. Absolutely great card. Fathom Mage next, so for 2, a green and a blue, it's got Evolve, so whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Pretty much every single one of those creatures that comes out is going to be bigger than that, so everyone's happy. Whenever a +1/+1 counter is placed on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. Other cards in the deck combo well with this, so Forgotten Ancient can move counters, other cards can move counters, so you can actually get a lot of card draw out of this. Happy. Really, really happy with that. Revelark, so for 4 and a white, you get a 4/3 flyer. When it leaves the battlefield, return up to 2 target creatures with power 2 or less from the graveyard to your battlefield. To be perfectly honest, there are a lot of cards, if not most of them, that can make a big impact that only have 2 power. Master Biomancer's only 2 power, Fathom Mage is only 2 power, sorry, that's only 1 power, and Forgotten Ancient's 0 power, so it's really going to be a good card in this. Or you can just pay it as a vote cost for 5 and a white to just cast it as a spell. Really useful. I like the versatility of that. Vulture Zombie, so for 3, a black and a green, you get a 3/3 flyer. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on it. With the size of your army, this is going to get big really quick. Coldren of Souls, so for 5, you've got an artifact where you can tap it to choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gains a persist until the end of turn, so when it dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with -1/-1 counter on it. Really strong card in this deck, because you're going to be able to make up for that -1/-1 counter very, very quickly with +1/+1 counters to remove everything. So, to be perfectly honest, absolutely fantastic card. It just means that you've got the ability to make sure your army keeps coming back. Great. Astral Cornucopia is next, so for X, X, and X, enter the battlefield with X charge counters on it. You can tap it to choose a colour, add 1 mana of that colour to your mana pool for each charge counter on it. These charge counters can be made bigger with Proliferate. These charge counters can be made bigger by Deep Glowskate, so you can have loads of mana ramp here. Hardened Scales, really good card as well. For 1 green, if 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be placed on a creature you control, that many +1 counters are placed on it instead. Really good. Only for 1 green. If you can get this out early, it's going to make a huge difference to the game. Citadel Siege is next, so for 2 and 2 white, as it enters the battlefield, choose Khans or Dragons. Cards at the beginning of your combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creatures you control. Really useful, can make things a little bit bigger. Or at the beginning of combat on each opponent's turn, tap target creature that player controls. Stops them from being able to attack with something. Very, very useful in a multiplayer game, that's great. Cathar's Crusade is another big combo card for the +1/+1 counter strategy. So for 3 and 2 white, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature you control. I don't really need to say more about that. You're going to have some massive creatures just entering the battlefield just with this card. Comboing with everything else, it could get quite stupid quite quickly. Mirrorweave, so for 2, either 2 white, 2 blue, a combination of each other creature becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature until the end of turn. If you have a lot of tokens out, and you have your commander up, for example, the commander's got loads of +1/+1 counters on it, or any other ones, play this card, all of them become that huge creature, pile in for the kill. Great. Languish, strong piece of removal there. So for 2 and 2 black, all creatures get -4/-1 until the end of turn. Wipes away a load of your opponent's creatures that might end up chump blocking yours. Your creatures more than likely will be bigger than -4 because of all the counters, so yours should stay intact. Merciless Eviction, so for 4, a white and a black, you get to choose one. Exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, or all planeswalkers. Really strong and versatile card. Exiling is great. Love it. Spitting Image is next, so for 4 and 2 green, 2 blue, or a combo of, create a token that's a copy of target creature, and it's got retrace, so you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land in addition to paying its other costs. Great. Copy of my commander? Why not? Copy of Forgotten Ancient, so loads of tokens can be spread around? Sure, I'll take that. Doom Blast is next, so for 4, a white, black, and a green, you've got to choose up to 1 target creature and destroy the rest. Keep one of your own massive ones, destroy your opponent's armies, smash in for the kill. Great. Darkwater Catacombs is now on your mana base. Any mana there. Murmuring Bosk. As Murmuring Bosk enters the battlefield, you may reveal a Treefolk card from your hand. If you don't, enters the battlefield tapped. Fine. Don't mind having it tapped. Pain land there. Paying for that. Pain land again. Interesting. Why the lands are there, I don't know. So Migratory Route, you've got 3 a white and a blue. Create 4/1/1 birds with flying. Again, basic land cycling is useful, or you've got creatures that are flying with evasion that could end up getting bigger and bigger. Treasure Cruise is great. I like this. So 7 and a blue with Delve, so each card you exile from your graveyard while casting it makes it 1 cheaper. Draw 3 cards. And then we've got our basic lands there. Okay, so 3 colour land. Ash Barrens, one of the cards I'm getting from this set going into my cube for sure. Colourless mana if you want it, or you can land cycle it to get any basic land you want. Late on in the game it could be quite useful. Early on in the game it will be the equivalent of Evolving Wilds for sure, because you're going to be paying 1, so it's the equivalent of it coming in tapped. Very good card though. Bounce land, Command Tower is useful. This is the land which is really, really strong in this deck. So Dreadship Reef, you can tap it for a colourless, pay 1 and put a storage counter on it. You can pay 1 mana to remove X storage counters from it, to add X mana in any combination of blue and or black to your mana pool. You're going to get those storage counters up really, really, really quickly. And to be perfectly honest, it's a little bit overpowered in here, but I really like that. Mana ramp is great. Get a load of creatures out later on in the game if they end up getting removed. Great card. Evolving Wilds, bounce land again. Opal Palace is very useful just to give another +1/+1 counter to your commander if it's already been killed. Great. 3 colours. Temple of False God for a lot of mana ramp there. Terramorphic Expanse, Seaside Citadel, again another 3 colour there. And I'm very glad it's only been one of the commander decks I've bought that's had some cards stuck together. This was the deck I was most excited to play. Atraxa is a really strong commander with plenty of potential. This deck hugely capitalises on the +1/+1 counter strategy with combo cards like Bread for the Hunt, Inspiring Call, Cathar's Crusade and Cauldron of the Souls. These make a huge difference along with Atraxa's key ability, Proliferate. Dreadship's Reef's inclusion allows Atraxa to even ramp your deck. There are so many good ways to be able to get your creatures huge with this deck. Everything seems to combo really well together. The card picks were great, and all the creatures are just fantastic. This deck isn't for someone that likes quick, aggressive decks, by no means, but it won't take you long before this deck gets completely out of control. I absolutely love this. Let me know what you think of this deck in the comment section below. Did you end up picking up this one? Links to the deck openings for the other 4 Commander 2016 decks can be found on this page and in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up as it really helps the channel to grow. There has been a massive increase to subscriber levels, so thank you all so much for joining the channel, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more Magic the Gathering content.
I just want to say a huge thank you to Pendrakes for getting the products to me on release day. The customer service was fantastic when ordering the products, so I could get the videos out for you as soon as possible. For the UK viewers, there is a link to the store in the description below, which has very competitive prices for all trading card products. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.